there's a lot of messages that girls get. And again, some of them are almost on a level of osmosis. In other words, they're not real direct messages. The most important thing is girls are seeing, really from the time they're much younger than teenagers, they're seeing over and over the same kinds of images of women that are considered beautiful. Those women tend to be thin, they tend to be very unnatural looking, they tend to often be very sexualized images of women. So that image is internalized, and what happens when that image is internalized is virtually all girls and women end up feeling inadequate. They end up feeling, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not thin enough, my skin isn't clear enough, and so on and so on. Another thing they feel about that is that this stuff is very important. I mean, it's not a sort of irrelevant thing, it's very important. So for example, one sex difference I noticed years ago as a therapist, before I was even thinking about this stuff, is that if you ask a man how he feels about his body, he might be realistic about it. He might go, well, I'm not that good looking a guy, but he's not likely to have real intense reactions to that question. Women often have very intense reactions. Girls often have very intense, almost like a repulsion or a self-loathing. And that comes, I think, from internalizing pictures of women as beautiful that are so different from what they actually are. Over the last 20 years, models have gotten thinner and thinner and thinner. And so the average model's 5'10", 5'11". Their weight's about 110 pounds. They will get no thinner. The height weight of models has leveled out, not for any positive reason, but because if they get any thinner, they can't be healthy enough to show up for photo shoots and work. So they have gotten thinner and thinner. Meanwhile, the weight of real women has increased. And so the disparity between how our culture defines beautiful and how real women look has gotten greater. When we define beauty in such an unnatural way, young girls do very unnatural things to be thin. There's a real correlation by now in this country between young women's desires to be thin and to be beautiful and the fact that so many young women really become victims of eating disorders. TV Guide asked me to do an article about all the shows with adolescent girls. And what I found was, first of all, there was one look. All the stars looked essentially totally interchangeable, about 5'10", 5'11", thin, maybe 110, 115 pounds. They all wore designer clothes, perfect teeth, perfect hair, long, straight blonde hair. And these girls were all big consumers. They were all very interested in boys.
And we'll play.
And sexualized in a way that most girls that age are not. There's a kind of fashion trend to use adult women dressed in young girls' clothes. I think this is very dangerous. It blurs the boundaries between children and adults. It educates all of us to see children in a more sexualized way